Welcome to another session in our Python course. Today we are going to be looking at some important functions that you need to understand for you to enjoy your programming journey in Python. We are going to start with the range function. The range function is used to generate a sequence of numbers, which is often used in a loop, and this is the syntax. But like we always do, let us use examples to explain the syntax and see what the function does. For example, if I say range of 5, so range of 5 means that I want to get a sequence of numbers from 0 to 4. Like you can remember that in Python, indexing is n minus 1, such that the last number is not always inclusive. So, so if I use a for loop here, like for I in range, and then I say print I, you can see that we have printed 0 to 4, 5 not inclusive. This is what we use this particular function for. Assuming I want to start from 2, so I just put 2 here, and then if I run this sequence will start from 2 and it will end at 4. So let's see. So it starts from 2, ends at 4. So if I want to start from 1 and end at 20, but I want it to be every second number, so I will put 2 here, so that it will be 1, 3, 5, 7, and co. So you can see 1, 3, 5, 7, and co based on this step. If I increase this to 3, you can see the same thing. So this is what we use the range function for. By the time we start doing some projects in the future, we will see how we are going to be playing a lot around this particular function. Good. Now, let's look at the zip function. The zip function takes an iterable. We should know what an iterable means now, but even if we do not know, it is usually any form of a data structure or data type that we can remove its elements one at a time, and we are going to see how it works later. But generally, tuples, lists, strings, and dictionaries are the commonest iterables in Python. So if we want to put element of a particular iterable or one or more iterable in a particular zip, like we want to map them together, we use the zip function. So for example, if I want to match this together, for example, this is the student's name and it contains the name of the student, and then this is another list. We call it student score, which contain the corresponding score of the student. Assuming I want to match this together, I will use the zip function. So let me say zip of student's name and the student's score. If I run this, you can see that we are having like an object that is not showing its content. Now, let me show this in form of a list. So I want this combination to show in form of a list and see our output. So you can see that we have a list, but inside that list, we have a combination of the two components. You can see that this small tuple here contains the name of the student and the score. Another tuple here contains the name of the student and the score. So if I want it to be in form of a tuple, so let's see. So I will put tuple here. So you can see that all of these are contained inside a tuple. Assuming I want it to be in form of a dictionary, then I will make this dict, and then you can see that now we have converted this to a dictionary, and I can put each of these inside a variable. For example, I say variable equals this. I can call it out and we have the same thing. So I can say for I in variable print I, and here I can have all the keys of this particular dictionary, and I can use this to do so many things. So this is how the zip function works. By the time we are looking into for loops and co, we are going to be using these methods a whole lot. And understanding how these basic functions work are going to make your journey easy, because they will make you to be so creative that what would have required 4, 5, 6, 7 lines of code, you will be able to achieve them in a single or two lines of code. Let's look at another function called enumerate function. Enumerate function adds a counter to an iterable. In a simple word, it adds an index to an iterable object. And this is the syntax. But let's see how the syntax works with example. Now, these are students' name. Assuming I have a list that contains like thousands of students, and everything is jammed together like this, no key, no index, nothing. And I want to add index to them so that I can really use a particular index to locate where a particular name is. Then enumerate function is what will help us. And with enumerate function, I can actually specify where my index will start from. So let's start from here. For example, if I say enumerate of student's name, you see it returns this, but let me put it as list. When I run this, what do you see? You can see that this has put an index to each of these elements. So this is Ola is at index 0, and then Omega is at index 3. This is very important. So assuming I use dictionary, you see that it has made our index to be the key for each of these. So if I have thousands of numbers of elements, if I convert them to a dictionary, I can just use the dictionary key, which is going to be our index, to know the value at that particular index. So this is how it works. However, assuming I say, okay, I want, probably we have like 100 students before. So I want this particular list to start from 101. So I'll just specify here and write 101. So the start here, that is what it is indicating. When I put 101 here, it means that the indexing of this particular element is going to start from 101. So let's see. You can see now it starts from 101, 102, and then at that sequence. Now, let's look at another function called the input function. These functions allows user inputs. So you want a user to give some input and you want to use that input to do some processing, then you are going to need an input function. And it is important to note that the input function converts anything you put into it into a string. So it will return a string. So let's start like this. If I say input and I say, what is your name? If I run this, you can see it has written the what is your name. So it means that it's asking the user. If the user says Sonu and I enter this, you can see now it has returned Sonu. So if I add the user to say, give me a magic number, and I run it, it gives this. If I write 5 here, that is, if the user writes 5 and we return it, you can see that this 5 is not an integer, it's a string. So which means that if we want a particular data type from our user, we will need to enforce it. For example, in this place now, I can just say int of inputs. That is, anything the user puts, convert it to integer and return it. So if I do this, I say, okay, user puts 10, and then we run it, you can see that this is 10. It's an integer and not a string. The beauty of it is that we can store the user's input as a variable. So let me say number. So let's say user number equals int of input. So at this point, if I call user number, so it is asking the user to give a number. The user gave 45. And then you can see now that it has returned 45. But this 45 has been stored in this variable. So if I come here now and I say calculate cal equals to user number multiplied by 10. So if I call this out, we have 450. So which means that by doing this, we have been able to take our user input and use it in another operation. So this is how these basic functions works in Python, and we are going to be using them a lot to solve a lot of problems as we continue in this course. Thank you very much until we meet in the next one.